Oh, this circle? I think I had it on there, just turned it up. Oh, okay.
So today's date is October 17th, 2023. It's 1 PM. We're going to call a meeting to order. Pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in attendance today is Carlo Ciparelli.
Robert Lewis.
Ed Moore. Get 4.
Any public comments? All right, so the first order, everybody approved minutes from June. You remember that far back?
Motion
to approve.
Second the motion.
Report. I got one, thank you.
I want to see if they had public.
Next is financial year for 2024, the meeting schedule. Anybody have a problem with this time and date?
Not as of today.
What I would suggest is that Chelsea O'Reilly, District Manager, what I would suggest is that, considering how heavy this agenda is and the upcoming agendas, is that you guys meet more often than once a month. I would suggest every 2 weeks, and we can try to make them short agendas with single items. But this is, if you were to meet monthly, this is that you penciled in, but I would strongly recommend that you guys meet every 2 weeks. Parks and Rec.
Anybody have an issue with the first and third? Same time, every first Tuesday and Thursday?
Make sure, let me make sure the
Schedule and
room's
conflict?
available. It should be first and the third Tuesday. Available.
Okay, so anybody have any issues with that?
As of right now, I don't. However, I am going to end next semester's to you, and I have no idea about that.
Okay.
Other than that, I can work.
First and second.
So I'll make it
First
first and
and third.
third Tuesday at 1.
Good on our end. So totally up to you guys.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's
Change
like
that.
1:30.
Perfect. So, really quick intro. I don't think you guys have met Daniel Potter, our new Public Works Director. He started like ago, so hit the ground running. Daniel come. Well, I guess you can come.
Afternoon. Chelsea said, name's Daniel Potter. 18 years in the Army, doing engineering, vertical, horizontal, surveying, everything underneath the sun on their Army side of the house. recently coming from or by way of Pinellas County. I was the director of engineering for utilities there. So I got a pretty vast experience in utilities and public works. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to meet you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
So the next up's gonna be the soccer field maintenance contract.
So, with this item, the Board of Supervisors has already approved this because we thought you guys would have met prior to them. So, we discussed this in length last year with the board about moving away from Mainscape for these specialized services, specifically for the soccer fields. JSM does this, throughout the county for all of the county sports complexes. So we piggybacked their contract for this high demand. And so, we removed everything from the Mainscape contract, in regards to aeration and detailed specifications for soccer field maintenance, those over to JSM. So this took effect at the last board. So this is just more of an FYI. This is their schedule and things. And I don't know if you all have met Scott Holtz. He's been here probably 3 months. And he oversees this with the contractor.
Anonymous mo.
So this item, in talking with JSM and all of the services that they provide, one of the new things, actually, one of the board members, Doug Banks, some of his boys play, I think, baseball or football, and he saw this autonomous mower at one of the county complexes. And, hey, we should check this out. So in doing some homework, actually, last week, we had Mainscape bring a vendor out to test, and then JSM also has this autonomous mower. It would essentially be a roughly $16,000 savings if we moved from Mainscape to this autonomous mower with JSM for this fiscal year. One of the cool things about this is if we contracted it with JSM, it would give us an opportunity to test this out. And then maybe next fiscal year, if this does end up working out, we could purchase one ourselves and then save, the rental costs. Put on pilots that came out.
So it cuts amazingly. Honestly, 2 fields we've tested on look like putting greens. Fantastic. But every day, doesn't call in sick. Send it out every night from basically midnight until 7 in the morning. And it's just cutting. Parks itself, charges itself. So we're able to cut all the fields 7 days a week. So instead of cutting our fields, throwing seeds, taking the chance of spreading goosegrass and all that stuff,
Right.
it just maintains it and it fills in constantly. Hoping it's going to save us on having the divots and having to fill those.
What do you mean it fills in?
So since it's cutting so much, every night there's debris that's left, but it's
Right.
fine debris. Instead of drying up and blowing away or having to drag it, now it's fine and it fills in any of the divots we have over time.
Okay.
In the 7 or 8 days we've had it out there, we've already noticed a huge playability and the safety. So it's a robot lawnmower.
So it's like the sweeper.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. So I spoke to somebody over at Lee County Parks and Rec, and she told me that Lee County School District is, for all of the Lee County Parks and Rec facilities that are at school district facilities, they are moving to this robotic mower. And so really the whole point in us kind of ideally for this, hopefully this fiscal year, testing this with JSM is let them work out all the kinks. Let them,
Right.
have any issues, resolve any issues, if there's activity issues or whatever it may be. Daniel's kind of priced out some of these, but we can find out what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And it's a cost savings.
I love it.
Like Tim said, you don't have to depend on a person. That person calls in sick from
Yeah.
Mainscape, they've got a shuffle. Anyway, we brought it in front of you for your consideration.
Good idea. How's it got insurance and stuff like that, though?
They have to hold insurance, being a vendor of the district, they have to hold the same insurance all of our other.
And if a machine were to get damaged with this service contract, if it stops working, it's vandalized, if anything were to happen, they bring out a new one, take that one away, whatever, fix it, whatever. Doesn't matter, we've got a new one. So that's in this service contract.
So if it
Right.
breaks, there's no downtime, we have to
And-
send it
right.
out or anything.
As opposed to, and down the road, we may want to purchase. We'll have to learn how to blades on it,
But you may not.
but that's just maintenance, or
Yeah.
this may work out.
And I apologize, but, so is it going to be in charge of it when here or the vendor will be? So somebody will set it up.
It literally will live there in one spot. It has a landing pad, if you want to call it. The only thing we may have to do, district, again, down the road, once we maybe build an area for it, of course, not with a gate, but just to isolate it.
Right.
We will have to still, it will do the fields, it will also do what we call the rough areas or the apron on the field, common areas, but we'll still have to have weed eating,
I was-
edging done,
that was
but
my
that's
next
a
question.
minimal cost.
Right.
So
Comparatively.
the edging.
I mean,
needs
if you
to be
look at the
done.
savings, it's, we're paying 97 now.
I don't know if you guys can see. This is the video Daniel sent me. And then, of course, the next step would be line striping machines. They make autonomous
Oh,
line
wow,
striping
really?
machines. So, but this was one of the two that Daniel videoed and sent me last week of our.
So I suspect it does, it maps the area, sort of like the,
It's, all works on
the ones we have
GPS.
at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, do you have one of those?
Yeah.
Yep. I think your home one would use a buried wire, whereas this one uses GPS tags, it just drops
Mhm.
pins, just follows those around. They also, another good thing about it, with the reel mowers we're currently using, they're big, they're heavy, they're bulky, and the faster they go, the more we call this submarining.
Right,
And so
right.
you get these dips. Yes, they will cross cut the other direction, but they're so heavy, they're always gonna cause these hazards and these dips. This doesn't do that. Creeps slowly, it cuts short, and knocked out a lot of those already.
I suspect it would be better when the soil is saturated. It
So
will
far, we've done it
eliminate the
in the
issue.
rain, when it just, I've seen it go through.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
Oh.
We need a motion.
We would look, yeah, we're looking for
Oh, I thought
direction
it
and a
said no.
recommendation from this committee to take
I
to the
would
board
make
of
a motion to
supervisors.
approve.
I second that.
Aye. Sounds like a great
Aye.
idea.
Very good.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
We're excited. This is definitely
Yeah.
21st century.
That's a game changer. Almost.
This is
The same.
to purchase mowers,
Yeah.
right?
No, that was the
Oh,
they
yeah,
cut.
yeah.
Okay, so this next item is somewhat of a doozy, so it's a, so let me give you a little bit of history. So we took that national fitness campaign, that outdoor
Yeah.
fitness court to the board for their consideration. Ultimately, it came back and requested staff to come up with a phase 1 of master park plan. So over the summer, we put together, went back to Holmontes, said, hey, can we update to just show, a phase 1 of this plan? Our suggestion, phase 1 would be, want to hit all of your age groups, right? So you want your children playground, want your young parents, an outdoor fitness court, and then, third generation pickleball courts. So that would be what would be suggested, as well as some pavilions in the first phase of this master park plan. So I don't know.
Two of these.
Kind of blurry, but ultimately there's two renditions here. And the key difference is the
Basketball court and the availability of food trucks.
All right, so. So the key difference here, so you see playground area,
Mhm.
splash pad connected to the rec center. Down here, little flip-flopped, playgrounds here, smaller. This is more closer to the original rendition of master park plan. So we gave Holmontes the admin building parking lot for it. And this is what he came up with, was essentially two renditions. Now you'll notice this event lawn, there used to be an amphitheater here, it's been removed. Saw some ideas of maybe dock, like a little observation dock, overlook. Again, a lot of this has stayed the same. We've got a lot of open space here with pavilions.
Why'd they remove the amphitheater?
I suggested that we take it out because that was one of the biggest things that was shunned back in the day. This survey went out.
Mhm.
So that's not saying it can't go back in because you do have an
Well,
event lawn
I'm gonna
space.
push for it to, I can tell you that right now.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, well, and that's the whole point of bringing
Yeah.
this in front of you all is to get your comments.
Yeah.
So-
We'll know in November. A lot of folks show up to.
Well, and one of the other alternative ideas was, I've seen mobile trailers that turn into stages.
Right.
And then that way you could have it here, you could have it at lawn space, you could have it churches that have events. I know the big hay event was. So that was truthfully the alternative.
Okay.
Instead of building a huge structure and you have to maintain that, et cetera. So,
Okay.
On the top of the event lawn area, it says open space. What is on the top of that? I'm having trouble.
beach
making it out.
volleyball
Beach
courts.
volleyball.
Yeah.
Trying to make some copies, blow it up.
I would like to see a copy of
I
the
have it
other
printed out
version
too.
Here,
It's
here's,
not
you
really
pass
that
that
much
one around
better.
until I get
Where are the restrooms?
You can't read anything.
No,
The
it's too
restrooms
small.
would be in the rec center, bless you, in the rec center, and then in our admin building,
No, I'm
and then of
okay.
course we have
Thank
the
you.
pool. So some of the bigger changes, you'll notice all the court sports are up here. We've got pickleball / tennis that, I've seen get so many courts, so many pickleball out of tennis courts, a basketball court, there's bocce, here's community gardens. There's the entranceway into path, easement. And again, you'll notice all of the open space that is still there.
Where is a walking trail?
It's,
Because it would be nice to.
it's hard to tell, but he's got the paths drawn in.
Mhm.
That
I
way-
see it,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna go up to this other one.
Do we know how many miles that one?
We don't, this is only a schematic, this is not, we're
Okay.
not in design yet. So this
Okay.
was, once the schematic is approved, then we would move forward into design. Design would be at 30, 60, 90, 100% design.
What is the trailhead center?
So that is like basically the FPLE. So you would have like a nice little bulletin board, with apps, or here's the start of your trail, you're going however many miles it is. But that would essentially be the start of like runner. But that's where you would. And now the big thing, one of the big things that I did ask Holmontes is I hate to design something that you can't ever expand or grow, right? You kind of hinge it and pigeon yourself into this hole. And so that's one of the big changes from the court, this rendition to the other. A lot smaller, there's a lot less. We could choose to build out half of these, and then at a later date, if it's enough in popularity, we could expand it even more. Bocce ball courts are up here. Basketball's kind of flip-flopped. We've got a lot of pickleball. He wanted to keep all of the court sports together, which
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then you'll notice here, the playground area is a lot larger. This pushed rec center, if there ever was one, off, that would remain green space until that time. Got your food truck court, parking lot. I think that stayed. So ultimately, we're looking for your feedback, you know. Do you want to add the amphitheater back, or do you want to add any additional items, remove items?
I'm gonna put the amphitheater back. I mean, I have a vision for Lee County Schools, the bands coming and, you know, doing things there, the symphonies, local bands, I mean, regional bands. I mean, there's just a whole lot of things that could, if we had an amphitheater. I understand the event lawn space and, you know, bringing in a trailer and all that stuff, but it's a totally different vibe when you do that. Whereas if you have that band shell already there, people expect to have music at some point. There's that expectation that something will be happening. And I will get polls, I will do surveys, I will do whatever you want me to do, because everybody that I've spoken to thinks it's a great idea. So
Does everybody else feel the
that's
same?
me.
I think it's a good idea.
I feel the same. I think sky's the limit as far as, especially children, in high school.
Yeah,
Kids, they could
ex-
use that for plays, for
Yes,
bands,
exactly.
for whatever you can imagine. And
Yeah.
God knows, we have a lot of children.
Yeah, you can do outdoor
It's a
movies
great
there.
entertainment
Right.
space for families, and that's what we have. And I understand seniors may not have children, but they have grandchildren, and if they're looking to pass time and there's a nice play going on or a band or something, I'm sure they'll be happy to just attend.
See,
and have a great time.
I went out there 2 weeks ago with Tim, and one of the issues is just not building a structure for the amphitheater. That's a swamp, and all that land, all that earth needs to be removed and replaced with something that has better drainage.
Well, drainage
And-
would be incorporated as part of this whole entire site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
site
it would
plan.
have to be. Yeah.
Tim, I don't know where he went to, but he could talk more about that.
No, I mean, that'd be a requirement from South Florida County, part of the
On the whole
development
thing.
order process.
Yeah.
No matter what we put out here. it's-
Exactly, yeah, the entire process would.
Can I ask
Pull your-
about,
pull your mic.
I'm sorry, this is Maria. I have a question. Why do we have two pickleball and then
That means,
pickleball or tennis? Do we have to have that many? I'm sorry, I'm just asking.
the two is that 2 courts fit in that space. The
Mhm.
tennis, you can fit 4 pickleballs within 1 tennis court. So this is up for discussion. And that's kind of why the whole, you know, do we want, like, if you expanded, do you want to put maybe pickleballs, you know, huge? You don't want to put a
It is huge.
basketball court instead of pickleball, or maybe tennis court. So right now, it's very flexible.
I mean, I like it the way it is. I think you need a basketball court.
If the
You mean a
intent
second
was,
one?
well, if
No,
the,
not a second basketball court, just a basketball.
There is one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, she said you could remove it and
Yeah.
add more of something else.
so if this was designed under the intent to put all of the Parks and Rec amenities at this location. So there's a basketball court, there's a beach volleyball court at the fun park. Those would shift here.
Yeah, I like the design. I think it's good.
I do too.
Is there one, do you have a preference over one compared to the other? So you
I
this
like
one
the second one better.
I do too,
Compared to this one?
yeah.
I don't know that I'd invest in a fishing pier. Aren't many fish in there unless you're going to stock it.
No, Pelican does stock some of their,
I think being with a body of water that large, since we're not allowed to go to, boats are not allowed in there,
No,
a fishing pier would be a good idea for people that just want to pass time.
well,
Little
or-
children,
Well,
a
people
safe,
walk
a
all
safe
along there
idea,
anyway.
safe idea. Or, far away from gators and.
Yeah,
What I would suggest is I would like to see along somewhere, maybe incorporate something for children with special needs. Like I know up north we had some walking trails that had activities along the way for children with special needs.
they have a
and
lot of
things like
playgrounds.
that, and I would like to see something that would be friendly.
Everybody else feel the same?
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Incorporate, if it's stations or playground equipment as part of the
Any,
larger
something,
playground.
yeah,
yeah,
anything,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
anything. I don't wanna leave any.
I think you need a restroom facility in that northeast corner. I don't think you have enough restrooms. And they're not, I mean, it looks close on the map, but when you walk out there, that's almost
Mhm.
a football field length. And for older folks, playing pickleball could be a bit far.
And,
It could even be a two-holer.
piggybacking on that, where would water stations be
I
all along here?
had exactly the same thought. Water stations,
For like drinking.
Drinking water, yeah.
drinking water.
I would say we could incorporate those in the future rec center, playground. There's already, I mean, the pool already has some, the admin building would have some. If you wanted to make it as part of this trailhead center, have a filling station there.
Yeah, yeah, you've got to have something near the courts. I mean, granted, people are going to bring their own water.
But a
but you-
ritual, especially
Yeah.
if people are walking
Exactly.
or
The court
jogging.
area
or
I mean,
might
if
be
we,
the best
we want
place,
people
like over here,
participating,
walking
we got to
Of
give them
course,
water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other comments or feedback?
I really like this.
I like
mean,
it too.
I like number 2 really well.
Mhm.
This, that's this one.
Yes. Yes. I
Is
like
there
number two
anything,
too.
is there anything that you feel that is missing? So I've got 4 notes here. Amphitheater, special needs equipment, restroom facilities near the court sports, and then water bottle filling station.
I mean, we have so many empty stations. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I counted real quick. I mean, 6. 3, 6. So, I mean, there's plenty of space to add later on. Sure.
Mhm.
We'll come up with some
Mhm.
things, whatever
Yeah, like
is,
little
Yeah.
picnic areas,
Yeah.
some picnic tables.
maybe
have
picnic
lunch.
barbecue areas. I mean, the sky's the limit with this. I mean, we start with something that makes majority of people happy for now,
Yeah.
and we see how
So
Mhm.
busy
phase
we
1.
get and.
Phase 1, so the splash pad was approved in this fiscal year's budget. The court sports would be under consideration for phase 1, which would mainly be pickleball courts.
Mhm.
The playground equipment would be in phase 1, and then some small ancillary shade structures. Everything else would come too.
Okay,
Mhm.
So is
Are
everybody?
they happy with that?
I like that.
So let me explain the process and the hiccups and the headaches.
Okay.
This is one property, right? It's one strapped parcel for the county. And so we currently are in permitting for our admin building, applying for a development order. You can only have one active development order at a time on a strapped parcel. So we need to get through the application process for the admin building, get it issued, and we can go in for an amendment to that DO to incorporate phase one. Now, that's gonna take some time.
Mhm.
Next steps would be this would go to the Board of Supervisors with your guys' comments and feedback for their consideration and blessing. Then we would go to, Paul Montez, but through Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech's our main engineer. Paul Montez would be a sub of Tetra Tech, and we would work together a scope and price for them to do the design work for phase one. Now, that would go through 30, 60, 90, 100% design. Typically, you apply for permits at 90% design. That way, any of the comments or feedback from those regulatory agencies, you would incorporate to get your 100% plans. And then that's when you'd go out to bid. Now, there's a couple ways to do this, the actual construction part. One option is to just bid it out and hire a general contractor to oversee everything. The other option would be to individually contract with the different companies, because playground equipment is unique. Sports are unique. Pickleball courts, they have their own specialty, right? So that's something internally we're reviewing and seeing what would be most feasible. Your site contractor does the site work, moving of the dirt. That would be a separate contract. So those are some of the things that we're reviewing as this progresses, but this essentially will go to the next board meeting for their consideration. Now, the next handful of items, I apologize that they're mowing right now. So the next handful of items, we've done a lot of homework over the summer. Maria's helped out on different concepts and ideas for splash pads, for playgrounds. There's so many options out there. We kind of need your feedback before we can go back to them and say, hey, you know, these are we have to have these. Here's our we'd like to have. So we'll keep plugging along, but we'll take this option 2 of this with your edits, your comments to the board for their consideration. I think Thursday is, or it might be the next meeting, I'm not sure. Agenda. Comments?
So how long would that process take roughly? About
Year.
A year.
Easily.
So building this wouldn't start for a year.
At least. And that's, I mean, if we got all the everybody agreed, we got Whole Montes under design, permitting is the longest. You want to keep going, and I'm going to go see if I can try to print that
Yeah.
hard copy for the.
I'm a little biased, you know, you're pushing on the sport, everything sports first. From the responses I've gotten from the community with the music venue, boy, it's not that big of a expense to build an amphitheater. You know, I would put that in phase one personally.
I would too, and the reason is because you can start doing events once that's built. You can have your Gateway, Taste of Gateway, or, get the bands involved, from the high schools and, the music programs and all of that stuff to get action going there more than just sports. The sports are already going to be there, but if it's just a sports thing, people are going to think that it's just a sports thing. And I'm in agreement with Robert that I think should be in phase.
I mean, I would like to see something else too, so I'm gonna go for that too. And
Okay.
Carlos, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, if the board will approve it, sure.
I mean,
Do as
we can
much as you can in
like to
phase one.
suggest.
we can ask,
Yeah.
we can suggest to include it, yeah.
Yeah,
We need to make a motion?
I think
for
it's an integral part.
I think so, 'cause we're just making it.
that? No, I didn't get it. If we need to make a motion
I
to.
don't think we need to make a motion for that. I
No?
think what we can do is take these notes and include that and put it in a rendering.
I would make a motion to put the amphitheater music area up in phase one.
I'll second.
Everybody in agreement?
Very
Yeah.
good. On to the next item.
Didn't you see that?
So as far as some of the playgrounds that we were looking at, part of phase one. These are the prices. This is. The attachments with the pictures are below this. If I can get to them. A couple of these. So this is just an idea. That was priced around just under 90,000. It's not a very large playground. Playgrounds are expensive. I think we've talked about this before. If the price of the equipment's 90, you're looking at almost double that by the time you do land development and the play-safe structure underneath. So these do get quite expensive. So this is why something small, it might be a starter package we could go with. We
Right,
can always add onto it later.
exactly.
Did you want to go back to that, Maria?
I would like to explore another option with just maybe a little bit, something more. I would like to see something for more than one age group. Let's say 2 to 5, and then 6 to 10, 12.
Okay.
Not 12, no. Maybe 10.
Apologize, these
Yeah.
renderings are not really the best. These are more diagrams than renderings.
Okay.
Well, the first one had that, had like a small, you have the bigger one, and then off to the side was a smaller one for the little kids.
And it also depends what companies, we can do some digging and see if there's.
Yeah, but I mean, those things, you could, there's thousands of them.
Yeah, and we've reached out to several companies. And it's something like what you're talking about, if I dig back, we do have proposals in that. And that was in the
Mhm.
$180,000 range. It's one main structure with some substructures.
Mhm.
And it does gather all the different age groups in there,
Mhm.
but, and that's fine. We just have to realize that's gonna cost more money up front. How much do you all recommend putting into phase one? And what are the key groups that you'd like to attract first? So,
Well, and I think that's a good point, phase one.
right.
We can
Right.
add in phase
Always we
two,
can add.
more things wherever.
So if that were the case, you may want to consider what would be the ideal demographic for kids to bring in first.
Right,
Families with toddlers or, 10-year-olds with the ninja style play set. Be more attractive and bring the most people.
I would like to see what are the demographics for children, because that's important. If we
Yeah.
bring something for very small ages and that doesn't cover the majority of the families here, then
So at the
Well,
next
and
meeting, I can
I
bring a printout of the census here for Gateway and show what we have, that we
I
haven't
would like to go.
dug into it. I haven't dug into that since the previous census.
Right, I would like to target what we have now.
Mhm.
And,
well,
well, within the next couple of years, because we can
Oh, yeah.
calculate that.
I
Okay.
can tell you from the current park that the majority of what I see, because I'm by there every single day,
Mhm,
twice a
mhm.
day. Majority of what I see are basketball players.
Mhm.
When the weather's right, I will see volleyball players. And there are just a handful of kids, not many, that are playing on that playground.
Well,
And-
to be fair,
Well, and that's right.
to
Schools-
be fair, it's not much of a playground. I mean,
Well, I
I went
agree.
there several times. I wouldn't take my child there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's,
I agree with you on that.
I just
I'm
don't think it's, yeah.
And in this one, I think what we're weighing it against is both of the play sets we currently have are for younger children. So there's no
Mhm.
real way to gauge anyone older, say over 8, 10,
Mhm.
Right.
12 years old. Because we have basically toddler sets on both of these playgrounds.
So on the splash pad, what age group are things there? I
So
mean,
that was a very interesting meeting we had. It can go from literal toddlers, because there's no, you're not going to drown. You
Yeah,
can bring a
right.
kid out there who's crawling and set them on there, and they have all these tactile things that they can play with the
Mhm.
water.
It's like the
and-
one on Fort
and
Myers Beach,
movement.
right?
And then it goes, I haven't seen that one. I've seen the one at Lakes Park.
Okay.
That one gets a little wild. It's
Okay.
more for more grown kids, and they get a little crazy there. But again, let's say if we went with a 80 by 80 splash pad. Now forget all the equipment on it, just the pad. It can be sectioned or cordoned off for all the different age groups. And there's stuff going from literal infants all the way up to where honestly adults would like to play
I
on
would
it.
love that.
And that's something we can grow with as well. And we did bring that up. So if we were to start with the infrastructure, meaning the hydraulics and the earthwork was done ahead of time,
Mhm.
at that point, you're just adding on features. So it's not as costly down the road.
Okay.
So I think we need to take into consideration playground and the splash pad together so that we can figure out what age group we really need, that playground to start with and the splash pad, where are we filling in?
And I
You know, the
will
different
say,
holes.
not speaking to the playgrounds, but at the pool now, for years, we've had the kiddie pool, which has not had much use. Summertime, it gets some families that come there because the kids are out of school, but they don't really utilize it's this deep. We call it the kiddie pool, right?
Yeah, right.
We've put a basketball hoop in there now. And we have if they're tall enough to stand there, they're playing basketball, all the way up to adults playing with their kids. So there is a need to get the older kids in,
I agree.
and we've seen it.
Yeah.
And if you build it, they will come because they're just
Right.
showing up in droves now.
That's why I mentioned the different age
Mhm.
groups for the children, for the playground as well, because there isn't much of a playground now. That's why you don't see people there.
Right.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you build
then
it,
maybe-
they will come. They
Right,
will have a
right.
place to come.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So I think for the splash pad, we have visited that and we're already looking towards starting with something that will attract all age groups and adding on later.
Right.
And if you wanted to go a similar route with the playgrounds, something that will attract different age groups, I think it would bump us up into a little higher price range.
Mhm.
But if that's what you would recommend, we can certainly
I think it
get
would
some
be
bids for
smarter.
that.
Yeah, spending a little more money, I think would be worth it.
Yeah, I think.
I
it'd be
think so
smart.
too.
people.
We don't want to start with something very mediocre, because then you're not gonna have much support and enthusiasm towards the project as
Right.
well.
Mind if I inject real fast?
Please
Just wanted to
do.
Throw in some comments that I know Chelsea would want to have addressed here. What we'd like to have you really put in the forefront of your mind is looking at the usage for age groups and maximizing capacity. So when I say that, looking at the types of things that we're putting into the playground. Are we going to put a swing set in that can only accommodate 3 to 4 people? Or are we going to put in a climbing structure that can look at 30
There you
people?
go.
So that's
Yeah.
something that we need to start framing out and getting
Mhm.
feedback from you all. Is what types of structures would you like to see in that facility? And then how are we best utilizing our space with those types? Are we going for swings, climbing structures, shade structures? I'll tell you really fast. Thing that surprised me was shade structures is going to be the predominance of your costs.
Yeah.
They are astronomical for the costs. So,
Right.
but if you don't have shade, now you've just got a wide open,
Right.
even so much as to what kind of aggregate we use, mulch, shredded tires for rubber, or going with a fancier compound composite to go onto the ground for drainage and things along those lines. Whether we raise the beds in these playground spaces or if we leave them level with the ground. Those are the types of things that we need you to start kind of conceptually grasping and thinking about what you would like to see going in parks. Really, we'd like to see like a top 3 priority. What are the must-haves? That way we can start going out, because I've got manual on top of manuals of playgrounds. I can validate this.
Yeah.
I literally got a stack from like Playmore and everybody else. And there are so many different types of play and tactile type of park equipment, from the lower ranges all the way up to the older ages. And Playmore, I think it was, actually does studies, and they do studies based on age groups when it comes to what types of, hey, we put this structure out here, who's actually going to go engage it. So there's a little bit of background there that could be
Good.
drawn upon to say which age groups do we think would actually be playing on it. I have to look at the demographics across the board here in Gateway, but what we'd like to see, y'all, is what is your top 3 items that you would like to see as a starting, as a base
Right.
for us, and then to be able to maximize the capacity and usage based on those age groups.
And the best way to do all of that he just said is to visit playgrounds, you know, in your spare time. Even if you're in Greece, Maria, check out the
Well,
playground.
speaking of Greece, I visited daily a playground with my godson, and it was, and it's a state run, which the state doesn't have a lot of money, so I have a hard time believing, I mean, no, I believe you, but I have a hard time thinking how expensive they are here. They had the Cadillac of the Cadillacs of playgrounds for, I mean, it was massive. It was in a shape of a boat made of wood and composite materials and such. And it had climbing stations and all kinds of rock climbing and swings inside anything you can imagine. I mean, it was, and it didn't really take that much space. It was just for everybody. And it had little tiny stations all around it for people to use. And I want to say it was in an area smaller than the side parking lot. And it had dozens of kids every afternoon. Just, it was bustling with people. And I just would like to see, my idea, I don't know about everybody else, but my idea for the entire project would be to accommodate large groups of people and not, like you said, a swing,
Right.
that people would have to wait in line to swing for 10 minutes. I would like to see activities that the kids would be more inclined to play together, because I think in general, the children now are lacking a lot of social activities. Most of them will, with the video games and the cell phones, and they're more closed into themselves, and I would like to see something that would force them to interact and play together, and accommodate more larger groups of them. And I would like to keep that theme throughout this facility. That would be my idea, and hope.
Maybe to move that forward, that could be some good homework. You guys visit some playgrounds, do some research online, discover what it is you think that would be beneficial to the community as a whole, as you're saying. Bring pictures, and then we can start narrowing this down. Which I think, with the Daniel's points, the quicker we narrow this down, it's a year out.
Right.
It's gonna go a lot quicker than you think.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I agree.
so I'd say gather some ideas, photographs, online research, and start bringing that in and compiling it.
It takes 16 weeks, they said, for, lead time?
12 to 18.
What's that, to order it and have it delivered?
Like
Yeah.
playground equipment, yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, they gotta fabricate it first. They gotta,
Right.
depending on what package or design you go with, they fabricate. Some companies do it in the United States, others do it outside.
Okay.
Times associated.
All right, shall we move to the next item?
So, did you go through each of
We went through,
and say,
Yes, we went,
Do we have our must-haves like
Yeah, see,
shade,
here you have, like,
swings,
the small-
slide?
so where we left it just now is the group as a whole would like to bring in all of the demographics related to kids. Small kids to larger kids. And instead of going with, for instance, what was in this photograph or this picture, this is more geared toward younger children. I think they were looking for something that can bring some of everyone.
Okay, so, well, you have different, with playground equipment, you have essentially two different age groups, two different structures. So you have your K through second, and then you have your second through fifth. You really don't want to mingle those. So if the intent is to have a small, separate, kind of standalone for younger over here and the bigger kids over here, we can price that, but it's going to be very expensive. Really the gist of what we're trying to get out of this is, I know Lee County, not to keep bringing them up, but any new structures that they're putting in shade. Shade right off the
Mhm,
bat,
yeah.
$50,000 to $80,000. It's so that's what we're trying to figure out with you all is, okay, here are our must-haves. Is your must-have shade, or can that come later? Or is your must-have a swing set? Or is it, I know I've heard made mention of like the big rope ball thing where
Mhm.
multiple kids can climb up it
Right.
and play on it. So is that the intent, that we want to have the most use out of our equipment? Instead of like a swing, it's got 4 there, so you can occupy 4 children. You want to have a big rope thing, or that's really what we're trying to get out of this with you all, because in speaking with each of these playground vendors, literally sky's the limit. I mean,
Right. Right.
but the more you add, the more it costs, the more to maintain.
if-
So Swartz, I believe, was it Swartz that said that they just did the school right here? The school just got a new playground literally like 3 months ago, and it was one of these companies, I don't remember which.
I believe that was Carrier Playmore.
Playmore.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get an idea, but that's what, I mean, your feedback on, okay, here's our must-haves, here are our nice-to-haves. That's what
I-
we're looking for.
If I were to prioritize right now, I think the swings are not necessary. I think swings are something that people can have easily in their backyard. We live in Florida. Most people have trees in their backyard. It's easy to put a swing up. I would like to see something more interesting that would engage more children, like a rock climbing wall or something with ropes, swinging, climbing, something of that sort. And I wouldn't prioritize the shade right now.
Definitely want something like a rock climbing wall or something like an occupy
Yeah.
a bunch of kids,
This-
but
this-
swings also are a must for kids. If they see a playground without swings, they're like, ah, there's no swings. The 1 hour community, my kids don't want to go to it because it's boring. And that's every kid. The kids, if their friends come over and they look at it and they're like, nah, let's go play basketball.
I would definitely not prioritize the shade right now, though.
Feedback?
I would put the money towards more activities within the
Yeah.
playground rather than shade. Children play outside all summer long and it's hot, so I mean, I don't.
So I'll tell you what I told all 3 of these vendors. I don't have children, I have dogs, so I'm more of a dog. I told all 3 of them that whatever we put out here needs to be, from a kid's perspective, and really an adult's perspective too, like, awesome! Like,
Right,
just they run
exactly.
to it,
Right.
like-
So,
That's
so
exactly it.
that being said, this doesn't look awesome.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
You're
I'm
right,
gonna-
and you're right.
Based
So
on the
I
budget.
want to see awesome.
Yeah, this was 80, let's go back, I believe.
But that's the other thing, how much is the budget for a playground? It's probably not gonna be 600,000.
Approved
So-
budget is
150?
150,000,
Yeah,
and this
so I mean, you have to work with.
stretches it.
And that little one there comes out to around 112. Oh, you're just looking
So
at
you
it.
could add a little bit more to that probably.
Just-
Okay, so with your stacks of books and catalogs and all of that stuff,
Yeah, Can we just
do you,
go through it?
do you have things like that that you can say, here, this is something cool, and here's 3 things that I heard you say would do the wow factor
Right.
in budget.
I can if you help narrow down what your top three priorities.
Okay.
What it is you want to see, and I can go back into the book.
Oh, Mike.
Can we,
Can we look through the books? Because we could see
Right.
something and you're like, oh, wait, this looks 10 times better. We
So,
never even think of
More,
it.
more than happy to send you the digital catalogs, and if you have things that you like, you can't talk amongst yourselves,
Mhm.
you can send it your top 2 or 3 things back
Yeah.
to us. We have all 3 digital, right?
I can get them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that, and,
Okay.
and essentially,
So-
exactly what you said is what we're trying to get out of you, because
Right.
these catalogs are this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
Right.
so basically, if we go back to the picture, if this is 112,000, our budget is 150, I would spend the whole thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but not sorry. I would like to see these structures just beefed up. So I'm sure we can find something that has more activities and more, or like a bigger climbing thing,
Well, keep
wall
in mind,
thing
this is
or
only one
something.
vendor. We had to, we're still waiting on quotes from 2 other vendors.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So we
And
might
they're,
find something
they
cheaper.
are the different, nicely,
It's
different,
really good.
different, dollar value levels of playground equipment.
Okay.
So, but we,
Can we also try to, we spoke on our previous,
we'll email you the digital catalogs, but.
Okay.
in our
you can look-
previous meetings, we spoke about, like, look, cool stuff.
Now, this is
Just
a
a
wow.
first look.
Yeah, that's.
This
cool.
is
That's
a
a
wow.
wow.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That is a wow.
See?
Oh, yeah,
Right
there you
there.
go.
Things like that. Look
Yeah.
at that. Those are wow.
Rotary Park. It's
We're in
amazing.
the same page here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Those are all
are.
cool.
That's
We really
boring.
are.
So we hear,
Like
so,
that.
so we want
Yeah.
a wow factor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Definitely.
That's
yeah,
wow.
that's
And
probably 300 grand.
Is the
Yeah.
committee,
Probably.
shade or no shade?
I mean, it'd be nice to have shade, but if you can get half the playground with shade, I'd rather have no shade and get double the playground.
Yeah, because we have a
Yep.
pool right there.
I think you
Right.
need shade for the parents.
You do, so you get a picnic table with a
And we'll
umbrella.
have benches,
Right.
loads of trees. I mean, and they
Right.
can be strategically placed around the playground.
So shade is a nice to have, not a necessity.
It's definitely.
Not
nice.
for the beginning stage,
for the
because
beginning.
remember, we said we can add. So we can add it later on.
Okay.
And we spoke about trying to raise funds or solicit donations in previous meetings. Maybe something like that we can do once we get this project off the
Yeah.
ground and, oh, this is,
That's probably
But I
$1 million,
also
so.
think that in regards to shade, that,
awesome.
that if we have the benches, like you said, with the little umbrellas, that this first phase 1, we can allow the parents to say, golly, wouldn't it be nice if we had some shade? And then phase 2, boom, we gave you what you asked for.
Is there, so we'll send you these, but you're more than welcome to peruse them. Like I
Yeah.
said, we reach out to 3 different vendors, and
Okay.
of course, they all have their, I mean, they need direction, and that's what we're trying to give them.
of course not.
Is there anything else about the playground that you guys would like to talk about? Again, we've got some time to figure this out, but, by the time they have to
Right,
turn it
right.
around and put together the schematics and the pricing, it takes a month at least, so.
Mhm.
So anything else? Now, my, one other thing, and you'll notice through some of these catalogs, I suggested no themes. No pirate ship,
I agree.
Correct.
no
Yeah.
Mhm,
jungle gym.
mhm.
So that was a staff suggestion, just because I feel like it doesn't necessarily fit in with our community, but that can be changed.
Well, when you get involved in
Awesome.
themes go away,
Mhm.
Themes get old. And if you have something that's a wow factor, that's not really a theme, it's just all about the actual activity. Like I'm seeing them page through all of these things. I mean, there's plenty of stuff
There's
without
lots of
themes,
options.
yeah.
So we kind of got some direction. Daniel will send out the digital catalogs,
Okay,
and make sure you just reply to him alone.
okay,
You don't,
perfect.
you
BCC.
don't have to choose between
These are all of our splash pads here.
and a slide,
Yeah.
because it
Alright,
accommodates
So
everything.
are you guys ready to move on to splash
Yes.
pads?
Yes.
Yes,
How many companies did we meet with? 2?
Um,
Vortex and,
2.
we have 2, okay. So,
We didn't do the pickleball courts. Or we did that already? Is that in the whole,
It was on the master plan.
that's the,
It was
okay.
on the master
I didn't know if
plan.
there was
No,
Oh, no, no, we
additional
actually,
to
no,
that.
I see you have,
Where's the agenda?
yes, I must have missed that. Let's go back.
That's, item number E. I'm sorry, F. Pickleball.
So this was just
Oh, there we go.
doing some due diligence, trying to get a ballpark figure of what some of these things are gonna cost. This was just a local company that does turnkey pickleball courts. So this, again, was an FYI for your information. There's not really much you can, other than picking some colors, but,
Yeah.
just so you all are aware, this was 4 pickleball courts and it's.
4 asphalt courts, fully painted and outfitted with all the sports equipment, nets, posts and everything.
Okay.
One caveat to this, and we'll run this with everyone we go with, is there are, find it here, under provisions and guarantees, there's some verbiage in here that says as far as invasive plants, et cetera, when they create it, we can pay an extra to remove those. Well, in our case, that will all be done in land development. But in that same verbiage, they talk about the owner, being Gateway, will be responsible for providing it's called a bio barrier or a weed barrier or a plant barrier, which is something you plant vertically in the ground and it inhibits the roots from going onto any of the playing surfaces. If we don't do that, in other words, that will be an extra on this price that's not figured in here. They do not do that at all. So we'll have to do that.
That goes back into deciding if we want to have a GC who's responsible for all of that site work and prepping for
Oh,
each of
I
these.
see.
Or do we want to contract, and they're responsible for all, coordinating with the vendor, all of that? Or do we want to contract with Joe Q Site Development, give them, and then go contract with them and contract with them? So again, we're playing with these different ideas, but just budget-wise, you see how much football courts
Mhm.
cost, and that's not counting any of the site development and stuff Tim was, so ballpark,
So that was the 60,
So we're looking at,
60,
yeah,
65,
65.
It's for 4 courts?
yes.
yeah, 65,900.
I mean, that's too bad for
It's
4
not,
courts.
and like Jessica was saying, we can go crazy. That's asphalt. You could do
Yeah.
concrete,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I mean, asphalt, it's probably
Right.
not a bad way to go.
Right.
Cheaper. You're gonna have maintenance and everything,
Yeah.
but we'll look into that and see.
Gonna have
I
to
don't
fence
think
them
that's
in.
bad.
Well, the whole park will be fenced in.
No, the courts individually will need to be
So
fenced.
there's a lot of different ways that people do the courts. Anything from hanging tags when it's your turn to play that are handed out. In other words, you get a ticket and it's your turn to play. There's also a Facilitron type of programming thing that you can purchase, just like Facilitron, that is just for pickleball. So as we get into it, and if the need arises, there's a lot of different ways that we can organize it and maybe stay away from fences. Because if you've been around pickleball, you'll notice that they manage themselves pretty well.
Mhm.
And especially if down the road we were to have a pro, that would fall into that purview. So while fences are not a bad idea, it's not a necessity upfront, my perspective.
And then we would have to have some sort of hedging, I assume, because you just mentioned we have to provide greenery that inhibits other roots from coming in, right? So the hedge-
Well, we have landscape buffers that we're required to meet as part of the development.
Right, so
All of that would
right
be.
there, they will have some sort of a,
Some sort of, but
Fencing.
again, you're working
The
with wiffle
barrier,
balls.
right.
If your point was, you don't want to chase the balls, I mean, they only go 30 feet beyond the court, the most. And most courts I've seen are not individually fenced in.
Gotcha.
And
but if
there's
you
a-
have some hedging, they
there's
will
a-
do
Yes.
the
well,
trick.
There's a fencing price on here for an additional $1,000. But again, these are all just conceptual ideas,
right.
trying to get some pricing, where are we gonna fall on phase 1? Of course, this would all go out to bid, but that way we've done our homework and some of these. We don't have to build out all 9 pickleball courts at one time.
Yeah.
You build out
Right.
4, and like you said earlier, let
Mhm.
be the driving
Mhm.
force behind it. Courts, but you have them on your plan to where if that's what you want to expand on, or if you want to do a basketball court, you have that flex space. All right?
Awesome.
Right, splash pads.
So similar as the playground. Options are endless, right? And I know that there's some technical stuff on the back end with pool equipment and chemicals and things like that. But again, generally, we're trying to get your feedback on, is there anything that you say you like, you don't like? What are our must-haves? What are our nice-to-haves?
I think the little, water slides a must. One of those big buckets that fills up and dumps over on you.
And hoops, some sort of a. maybe
Yeah, I
type
mean,
of
just
thing.
a little
Yeah.
water sprinklers type thing, the dancing sprinkler.
From an operational standpoint, the less moving parts, the better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. Something like that. Maybe, something that, like a little water gun type thing that's, you shoot at each other on the opposite sides. I mean, I don't think you have to go too crazy with it, but the water slides, I
they're
mean, if
like
you ever
runs
see
here.
those splash pads with the water slides, the kids are always running up and down there the whole time.
I don't know if that's, maybe that's gonna throw us off a little bit, but now that we said that, it came to my mind, I visited a water park in Hawaii once, and they had this small area, no bigger than this room, and the children could go from the outside, and they had little ships on the inside that you could play war with. And they had like, I don't remember how many stations, but there were like maybe 8 little wheels that you could control each ship with. And the little children would go around and play, and maybe that's an idea, maybe not for the splash pad, but for the wet area over here. That could be developed into something. Because it's something that a lot of children can play at the same time. Cool. It was,
So they can see what
Yes.
other things.
I can try to find a picture of it.
So we're hearing bucket, we're hearing
Mhm.
maybe the little water gun
Water
thing,
guns.
and some spray things.
Something,
And the
yeah.
water slide.
Water slide.
So, yeah, so I've written
For
down
sure.
a water slide, dump bucket, jets, sprayers, squirt guns, and
Yeah.
look into Maria's idea of, I picture like
I
Disney
can,
World.
I
I've
can
seen
find you
those.
I can
Yeah.
find you a picture of that.
Yeah. I
It's
don't know what they're
really
called,
neat.
but I know what you're talking about.
I don't know what they're called either, but it's very neat and very popular.
And I've always noticed that these umbrellas, they call them,
Yeah.
are
Mhm.
very popular even for adults. They
Yeah.
just put their chairs
Those
under there and
are-
sit
Yes.
there.
Definitely.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, with something like that, you wouldn't need shade.
There you go.
right? Mm, Take them
Any
in the
other
water.
feedback for the splash pad concepts?
I think that would be enough to start
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
don't you think?
I would think so.
All these are,
So the National Fitness Court, we basically, with board direction, basically said, not at this time, we're trying to get this phase 1 concept done. But as part of that conversation, the board said, hey, let's look at some other, does anybody else do this? And so most of the playground companies that do playground equipment, they also do outdoor fitness stations. And so we've had conversations with them and to see what they offer, and you'll notice in some of the catalogs, some of the stations that they have. So although National Fitness Campaign is a nice turnkey program, it might not be the solution for us, and so we're looking at some alternative options. So just as a kind of wrap full circle up as to where we're at with that, so.
Are any of the fitness stations going to be in the linear park? Just in the commons?
As of right now, just in the, anything we install within the Olympic Park has to get approved by FPO. We have to sign in a consent agreement with them. I did email them months ago and I asked the lady again, they would even entertain disc golf baskets, and I haven't gotten a response from her. Keep going.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is essentially all of the capital items that were approved in this fiscal year's budget. So I don't know, touch on where you're at with a lot of these projects.
So Victory Gardens is still conceptual.
Keep in
Vic-
mind,
Vic-
keep in mind, we're 17 days into the new fiscal year,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay?
Yeah. We have made movement on the fun park, even as far as pricing it out in the beginning stages.
Maria, thank you for your,
Yes,
You're
yes.
welcome.
And I believe Daniel mentioned this morning that Tetra Tech. Yeah. So they're working that right now. So we'll be moving, it looks like we'll be moving on that. Basketball goals. So that's something that we've gone back and forth with forever in this committee. The existing goals at the fun park, prior to these parks closing, Parks and Maintenance staff began to rehab the court itself.
Mhm.
And then we closed the parks, dedicated all our energy to that. And it's to the point where, is it something we go forward with? To be honest, I think we will, because we already have most of the materials we need to do it. But at that point, is it something we keep along with the dog park there? We're going to, in the first phase, hopefully have a basketball court, or even in the second phase, at the commons area.
Right.
So that would move there eventually. How much money do we want to put into the basketball court? Just leave it as it is? Get rid of it when we're doing site development? That's something that you guys should discuss and recommend there. At the fun park, I'm speaking.
At the current. fund.
Yes.
We
yes.
discussed it before.
I would say, well, depends on if you can use it to put a pavilion on, that would be great. If not, then I would say get rid of the basketball court.
The
and have-
slab itself it's beyond its shelf life.
Okay,
We're putting
It's
literally
bad.
putting Band-Aids on it
Get rid
right
of
now.
it. get rid of
Yeah.
it.
I would not waste any
Yeah.
more money on
It's-
that.
Yeah, if you're gonna move the basketball court, then
Yeah.
why bother?
Just have it at the pool, because
So-
it's an annoyance to every single neighbor that lives along the front and the back, and we, you know.
How-
it
So
just
what we
doesn't need to
can
be.
do, so these basketball goals, typically the commercial grade is Douglas brand basketball. We can purchase them and keep them in storage till you decide to do, if you and the board decide to do a basketball court up at the Commons, or we can just request to push the money. But the intent of these basketball goals was to replace the ones at the fun park, one at the fun, because of the condition that they're.
Well, what is the shelf life on the existing? Because I know it was repaired.
And it's currently broken again. So we've had to order 2 new hoops for it because, as we know, we've kept them low for smaller children so that the big kids don't come at 10 o'clock at night. And what happens, the big kids still come, they hang on it and they break it. So right now, we're out one. They're not expensive to replace. The goal itself is still fine, but the hoop is a constant replacement. And as long as we have that there, continue to have, it's just something we have to figure out. How long do we want to do that?
If we removed the taller hoops because of the annoyance of the neighbors,
Mhm.
obviously we don't want to go back to the taller ones. And if the pad isn't disrepaired and it has a short shelf life, I don't know what it doesn't behoove us to just go ahead and keep replacing those. I would just purchase them if the money is allocated and put them in storage. That way we have them for the one in the commons, for
That's
the
what-
basketball court
Mhm.
Yeah.
there.
I would agree
That
with
would-
that.
That would be my inclination.
I
I
would
think
agree
we're
with
all
that.
I
in
agree with
agreement
that.
here.
Okay.
And just be done with that problem. That way we don't have any
Yeah.
more funds wasted so to speak, in that area.
If I recall, the annoyance to the neighbors were the people driving their cars at night up there to illuminate the court, and they were playing basketball at night.
That was part of it, along with drug activity, drinking, loud music, and just saferiness. But yes,
Remove the
it got
hoops.
very busy.
Remove the hoops.
Can I ask, because I see the dog park here, where are we with that?
So it has to get permitted from the county, so we have to get a limited development order, requires site plans. So requested a task authorization from Tetra Tech, our district engineer, for that minimal design and permitting.
Mhm.
And then they'll apply on our, and then we've got some estimate pricing for fencing and things like that. We think we stuff that is over there, so landscape hedge, which we could probably go ahead and get started on sooner than later. Get that ball rolling, and then that DO, or that LDO is approved. It should be an LDO, which is a full-blown DO. Then we can, then each, like the fencing contractor would go apply under that LDO, and shade accessory structure person apply under that.
How about the cement?
That would be as part of that. So, it's gonna take a little bit of time, but, we've got the ball rolling.
What kind of time, just so I can, oops, I'm so sorry. So I can let the people at the dog park know, because I will be there this afternoon, because they knew we had this meeting and everybody's gonna say, what happened?
Honestly, it depends on if we're required to do a DO or an LDO. So
Okay.
I expect it to be, probably spring or summer.
Okay.
I don't foresee any site development that would be attempted, but
You never know.
it's a very simple site plan, just show with the engineers, show where the fencing's gonna be, show where the ingress, egress, the parking count, all of. I'm confident that it would be with.
Okay,
accomplished.
all right.
The
And of
complete,
course-
the complete move.
Yeah, and of course, we'll give them ample notice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on to the Commons area pool, Sherman Complex. Bocce ball court upgrades. I've recently, 2 days ago, reached out to have some warranty work done there. As you probably, if you've been by there, the borders are in need of repair. And it's specialized plastic wood, but that will be taken care of shortly. We were also looking, as far as the upgrades go, we've got several contractors that are supposed to be bidding on the paver surround, as well as a shelter / sunshade, depending on what the prices come back at. One contractor is going to give us a price on a lattice wood, and another giving a price on what you see in a lot of the parks, which is metal post with canvas shade cloth, sunshade cooleroo. So as those come in, that's something we'd like to move forward with. Dumpster enclosure, we do have a cost for that already, I believe, off the top of my head, it's about $16,000. And that goes right over here, and it would be an enclosure with a gate. So it would hold 2 dumpsters, and they wouldn't be over in the middle of the parking lot. That's something that I believe may even be in our charter that we get done. Automatic gate, we talked about that. Yes, ma'am.
Let's go back. So just so you all know, the dumpsters are at the eastern end of the parking lot. Part of that is we had some illegal going on in the last year, and so we actually, cameras can see those dumpsters there. But, we have a couple ample coverage.
Automatic gate, which was what we discussed during our last several meetings, I believe, is an enclosure that would close every night at 10:15-ish, and just kind of cut down on here at night. You have some cost associated with that. Commons area pool. So we've done the bathroom floors, and we're looking into replacing the countertops in the 2 larger bathrooms. Just taking some composite, that plastic, like a Corian type of material, with the sinks already formed into it and replacing the ones that are falling apart, they're just
Yeah.
particle wood and from. Splash pad, we've talked about shade structures. We were looking at, and I believe everyone was in favor of putting at least one shade structure there, possibly in the area where there is now currently the raised planter at the back of the pool. There's a circular raised area that does nothing, but from seating area, be a great place for a shade structure, be it a big umbrella or some rectangular structures that can put chairs underneath. We do have one contractor that was supposed to be getting a price on that, but sort of went off the radar, to be honest with you. But that's something we'll stay on top of. PA system, we do have one that currently works here at the soccer fields. To be honest, I can't tell you the last time it was upgraded. It works okay, but I think it's something that we'll have to look into upgrading and maybe adding some speed around the park. Oh, that's for the pool, okay. So that wasn't, I'm sorry, that wasn't supposed to be the PA system, that was supposed to be a music speakers. So yes, and it could probably also be a PA, but that was more for music. And that we will look into. Dumpster enclosure there as well, which is the same thing. That dumpster currently sits in the back of the parking lot and everyone has access to it. And we do have the same problems where people dump in there illegally all the time. Playground equipment, we have talked about that a little bit. There was at one time, before we kind of put this back together, that we were considering before anything else, moving a playground there as the primary draw for the new park. We'd all like to get. But now that it's sort of incorporated with this, we're just taking those ideas and moving, which is the phase 1 of the master plan. All right, this is fantastic. Bob was the driver behind this, but we are doing music at the park on November 4th. It's already been advertised and we are moving forward. The band who Bob is affiliated with, and he's bringing them down from, I believe, Punta Gorda, sort of that trop rock, Jimmy Buffett kind of music. It will be from 2:30 till, I believe we did 5 o'clock.
It says 2 to 4:30.
2 to 4:30. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
So please let everyone know, we'd like a real big turnout for this. And as far as staff goes, we will have 2 of staff members there. One who's already scheduled, and we'll bring 1 more in just to help out with the setup, the breakdown, and possibly hand out some popcorn. And we are trying to bring a food truck in, but as I mentioned to Bob earlier, the date that we picked for this coincides with Taste of the Town in Fort Myers. So it's been very difficult getting food trucks.
Yeah. no
So
kidding.
another idea is to talk to the ice cream guys over here, scoop me up and see if they'd like to come out, provide some.
Want me to go over there on my way home today?
If you felt so inclined, that would
Oh, I
be
know
great.
you
Yeah,
will.
I went there once today already. It was way too early for them to open, so.
Is it possible to get some signage at the road that leads into the park designating that free music event? Maybe even a few days before it occurs, so people, because not everybody's on Facebook.
This is true. My suggestion would be I can have some flyers printed and hang them all over the pool area. Because to be honest, anytime we see signs up of any kind, we rip them down. They're not supposed to be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're talking about the little sort of real estate signs, but other things on there.
No,
Garage
bigger
sale
sign.
signs.
Garage sale signs, yeah.
No bigger sign.
What are you thinking about, Bob?
I don't know, something that might be 3 feet by 6 feet.
The banner.
And say, something that says concert November 4th, free concert or something, and put it there at the entrance that leads back to the pool.
So I'm not opposed to that. It's just that we do have the cost issue there. And we're looking at probably $200 to have a banner made for. And if you're asking me for our first one, and as I've said, I think we should get our feet wet, see how this goes, and then make different processes the following ones. I think this is just to get our feet wet and see how this music in the park goes.
So this kind of expands into a bigger global conversation that I think we need to have with you all is the events that we know that the events that the district sponsors, try to get sponsorships and donations and things like that. So, we handle the Winterfest one. We handle, the
4th of July.
4th of July.
Labor Day.
We handle the fishing tournament, but I think we're working together to come up with a Parks and Rec events programming, kind of get that in front of you all, see where maybe we could leverage you all and your relationships with some community members. And I know Bob's kind of taking park under his wing. It seems like that's your passion. Maybe we could get you guys to help with some of the other events, maybe fishing or Winterfest is our main event. All hands on deck, but
How do you advertise those other than putting it on the internet? Or
we
on Facebook?
flyers. We pass out flyers.
And for the 4th of July thing, I know you sent the presidents of the HOAs and we distributed it, or at least I did. I can't speak for anyone else, but
That's not always the case.
it's not always the case, and I know that, but those who will distribute it to the rest of the community.
Does Randy know to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Did he do it for our November 4th?
I'd have to follow up with him. That last week. So we will, at your next meeting, which will be the first Tuesday of November, bring that item back for programs and events. I think that ties into the whole sponsorship package that we were trying to work through and come up with the different tiers, bronze, silver, gold, platinum.
Right.
And at what point do you get a banner, get social media advertisement, the naming rights, or whatever that may be? I think this is the.
So,
I mean, if it goes over really well, he could probably come back and do another concert if you.
In season.
and what we basically say here, this is a pilot program, and if this all goes well, we fully expect it to, we schedule.
And that's one thing, I don't know if you all are part of the Gateway community page, but that is one thing I saw really posted a lot after the Day event that I think one put on, was just how there's really not any events or programs or activities that go on. And how that event was so successful, and I really wish that there were more opportunities like that.
Well, and you just made a good point that the churches in Gateway would be a great place to distribute flyers and announcements and whatever. You tie in, maybe you tie in a pastor or two to do a prayer, opening prayers, or whatever, I don't know. Don't know that it's an opening prayer, but
Well, I mean, I think those things,
invite the congregation.
yeah, I would think that those are things that the PIO of Gateway can do. To reach out. I don't know that we have to do it individually.
Yeah, someone
I
to
don't
do
think
it.
you guys need to do that, but certainly I think Chelsea was saying, use your contacts if you got them. We're in close contact with several of the churches here. Some of them are really helpful in every. In fact, they've asked us to cross promote or help them with an event they may have coming up. They're a real good. Yes, we will continue to work on that, but I think yeah, what you have to help. And just on a side note, we are building currently the Winterfest. It to be similar to last year's platform as far as time, day, and a lot of the things that worked well. We're adding some things, and this year, and this can go down to Bob's point of having Randy send things out. We'd like to have each gated community decorate a Christmas tree this year and have a contest to see who has the most spirit in the Olive Gateway. So we'll bring that to the people as we do that. But along those lines, we're certainly welcome welcoming more ideas that you think would be better for the Winterfest. So please, bring them on, and we'll hear them all.
When do you normally have the Winterfest?
The December 2nd,
Okay.
the first Saturday.
And that's held where?
And we'll send out all that information to the HOAs as we move forward, but just so you know, that's in the planning.
Did you get my email regarding a group would like to have a drum circle here?
Yes, and I believe we responded to that. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's where I had mentioned that would possibly be more of a resident or community-driven event as opposed to a Gateway-sponsored event. At which point, we would have to look at something you wanted to do under one of our rental spaces, or parking lot, or whatever it is. But we have to talk about that, I
Okay.
think, because like Chelsea just said, Gateway is more than happy and willing and wants to put on the big events. But as it comes to these more, and I just call them resident-driven events,
Yeah.
we certainly have the space for it. We need to, and that's something that we all need to discuss here, how we move forward with that. So if Bob has an idea that he wants to do this and wants to bring it to the pavilion, does Bob need to pay for that? For 15 people, or possibly 300? And this is a great thing for you all to discuss and give us your ideas on that. But in the end, Gateway is looking at the big picture events.
Well, I think if it's somebody that's having a personal party, a birthday party or anniversary, and they want to rent a pavilion, I could see that is feasible. But when we want to do, I have my bluegrass folks that want to start getting together for music jams. I have the drum circle folks. And I think since the community can participate, I don't think we want to pay rent to do it up at the pavilion. I mean,
Well,
that's
I
my
will say
personal
that
thought.
if, let's say
This
Ed
pavilion
wants to
might
have
be
a soccer
for
game.
Well,
He has to pay
let me
for
tell you what
the,
I want to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you combine that with a chili cook-off from each neighborhood up there at the pool, then it becomes a huge Gateway event,
absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
And that's where the entire, vehicle moves. And if we take those ideas, those smaller ideas, but you could have the drum circle, you could have the blue, you could have all of those groups in one day if we had plenty of other things going on, like a chili cook-off. You could have the hatchet throwing, you could do all kinds of crazy stuff and just have a big freaking party. That's when you do that.
Well, historically, drum circles are held before sunset on Sundays.
Oh, I see.
And so, that's when the group would want to do it.
Gotcha.
The bluegrass folks, whenever it's available that we can do it. The pavilion over here is kind of ideal, but not if we have to pay for it.
So if I could chime in. General rule of thumb that we have used for facility rentals, for an organized event, you are going to pay, right? So that, I would consider those organized events. We've had birthday parties, rent the pavilion. And that's where, again, we go back to this Parks and Rec programming guide that we need to get in front of you at your next meeting and show you where we are from a staff perspective, because we only have so much bandwidth. And now these, like Tim was alluding, these resident-sponsored ideas and events and programs fully support it, but that is an organized event that is outside our realm of programming. That's not saying that it can't be. It can't be in our realm in future years. But here's what we want to focus on this fiscal year and take it year by year. I think that's the best way to proceed. And I mean,
That makes
as a resident, you renting the facility, you get a discounted rate compared to somebody on the outside. So that's just food for thought.
So for example, you have here on the proposed commons area, you've got 2 pavilions. Are they going to be also rentable pavilions?
Yes, absolutely. Every pavilion that we have right now is rentable. The pool pavilion, this pavilion, I think we even have the back pavilion as well. So Those are revenue
We
generators.
we even penciled in Fun Park. We even penciled in for the Fun Park when someone requested it. So, yes.
I mean, it makes sense because
It does.
we need to generate income. I mean, the primary, if it wasn't for the cost, we wouldn't be talking about, how much the equipment costs for the playground and this, that, and the other. So, I mean, it makes sense. I understand that people need
This
a
one?
venue
Oh,
to
okay.
do fun things but
Let's see.
for a reasonable price, I think that's acceptable,
So, just kind of wrapping this up, you guys have a meeting on the first Tuesday of the month at 1:30, right?
So it'd be on the 7th.
And so, we'll have what did we just talk about? The, programs. I know Daniel had put together a list and working with Tim on that. Do we want to continue to talk about any of these additional items that you see up here? Maybe the projects for Parks and Rec, just have a continual update on where we stand with those. And then maybe the bigger discussion is the playground equipment at your next meeting. Hopefully everybody will get the catalogs out. Perhaps if you want to take one, just make sure you bring it back to us, but, and then that way you guys can come, having reviewed those catalogs. Good conversation about your must-haves and your wants.
I would like to discuss definitely the playground on the next one. Pick our must-haves from here and maybe start talking a little bit more about the dog park again.
Okay.
And have those 2 items for that session, maybe? Since we went ahead and.
Okay.
Nobody
Make a
agrees?
note of the items.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, of course, I don't know how quick we can turn this around, and get the added items that you all mentioned, but, we do plan on taking it to the Board of Supervisors. So Carlo, as the chair, I don't know if you want to go and speak to that, or if you can't, maybe Maria can, and just, vocalize your support with those added amendments to the board, and just explain how this committee discussed it. And
If it's this week, are we talking about Thursday?
I have to look at the agenda. Well, if it's. Flavia, do you, okay. I'm trying to pull it up. Just a second. It might, yep. Yep, it is this Thursday. It'll probably be, the meetings start at 3, but it'll probably be closer to
I am not
4
available
or
this
5
Thursday.
o'clock. So,
I'm not available this. Maybe we can send a letter or email that somebody can read for us.
I don't, Carla, do you want to type up a letter, or somebody else type up a letter? I don't know,
Somebody
Ed
else?
or
Ed?
Bob, do you have availability Thursday late afternoon to come? Not to put you on the
Which-
spot,
Which day?
Thursday.
This Thursday?
Yep, the meeting starts at 3, but I don't anticipate this item being until much later on in the meeting, probably closer to 5.
Yeah, I won't be available this Thursday.
Ed, last one. Twist your arm.
Next Thursday.
Well, maybe the board
I
could choose to move him up.
Okay.
You can? Awesome.
Okay. Perfect.
Sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Who wants to take those home? If none of you want,
We're gonna
I
s-
would like
Yeah.
to share them with Carlos. We live in the same neighborhood.
So they're gonna send over the digital.
We'll
so
send the
it'll go
digital,
around.
but if you're a hard paper, just make sure we get those
I'm a
back,
hard
please.
paper person.
those, I'll send you the.
Oh, okay. Never
Oh,
mind.
come
And
on.
that's at 4.
I
would
have
say
no
close to 4.
5-year-olds.
4 or
Oh,
5.
these two are the same.
Oh,
All right. So you've set your next meeting agenda, and then
Yes.
your last item is adjournment.
Yep, and so the next meeting is gonna be November 7th, 1:30, and meeting's adjourned till then.
Thank you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Tim, let me